Let's talk about estimating differences. So that means estimating when you're doing a subtraction problem. This is helpful because you can use it in the same way as when you're estimating for adding. You can use it to see if your answer is close to the right answer, to see if it's reasonable. Okay, so right here I have my steps for estimating differences. Step number 1 is that you round each number, and step number 2 is that you subtract. We have to remember something for step number 1, and that's that if you're rounding one number to the tens place, you need to round the other number to the tens place too. Or if you're rounding one number to the hundreds place, you need to add the other, or round the other one to the hundreds place too. It's not okay to decide, I'll round that one to the tens and I'll round this one to the hundreds. They need to round to the both to the same thing. Let's try this first one out by rounding each number to the closest hundred. When I look at 761, I always look at the tens places for adding to the nearest hundred. Okay, so I have 61 here. So I'm going to think, 61, is that 50 and above? Yes, it is. So I'll give the neighbor a shove. I'll shove that neighbor up 1, so that'll become an 8. Okay, so I rounded 761 to 800. Now let me look at the next one. I have 528. Since it's a hundredths, I'll look to what's in these spots over here. I have 528, and 28 right here, I have to ask myself, is 28 50 and above? No. Is it 49 or less? Yes, it is. So since it's 49 or less, I'll let the neighbor rest. That means I'm not going to do anything to this 5. I'll just let him rest at number 5. Okay, so now that I did my rounding to the nearest hundred for both the top number and the bottom number, I have 800 minus 500. I don't have to think of this as a big thing, like, oh no, 800 minus 500, those are large numbers. I can remember that these are all zeros. I don't have to do anything with the zeros. So instead I'll just look over here, and I have 8 minus 5. That'll give me 3. And then I'll just pop those zeros back in. Okay, so I know that when I'm rounding, it's going to give me 300. Now remember, there really is a purpose to estimating and rounding, because when you're able to estimate and round, or estimate through rounding to get an estimate over here, then that tells me if I'm going to add this later, it'll give me something close to the real answer. Let's try this one right here, using rounding by tens to estimate the answer. Okay, so I have 436. When I'm rounding by tens, I use whatever's smaller, and that's going to be the ones place. I'm going to circle the ones place on both of these. Okay, so I'm looking at what's in the ones place. And for 436, I have number 6. I have to ask myself, 6, is that 5 and above? It is 5 and above. So I give the neighbor a shove. So I'll end up shoving this 3 up to be a 4. So now, instead of having 436, I've rounded that up to say 440. Down here, I have number 7 in my ones place. I have to ask myself, is 7 going to be 5 and above, or will it be 4 or less? And I know that 7 is above 5. So I'm going to give the neighbor a shove, since 7 is 5 and above. Okay? That means that instead of being 8, I give it a shove up to be number 9. So that'll give me 390, 390. Okay, so now that I have gone ahead and rounded both of those numbers, subtracting them will give me an estimate of what the answer is. 0 minus 0 will always give me 0. Now I have 4 minus 9. I can't take 9 away from 4. That won't work at all. So I have to go over here, and I have to borrow a set from the hundreds column. So I'm going to cross out my 4 and make it a 3 instead, and take that set and put it over here, and that'll give me 14. Okay, sorry that's a little sloppy. I was writing it upside down. And I realized I wrote the wrong answer, or the wrong number, so let me try not writing it upside down. Okay, that's much easier to see now. Alright, so I have 14 minus 9, because I borrowed a set from here and made that a 3. So 14 minus 9 will give me 5. And now in the hundreds place, I just have 3 minus 3. And whenever you subtract the number from itself, it'll always give you 0. So this leaves me with 50 as my estimate.